The hardest part about getting better at chess is learning what to do in the middle game, so I picked up this book, Improve Your Chess Pattern Recognition, which helps you identify key moves and motifs in that middle game. So today, the motif that we'll be going over is the beastly bishop, which is characterized by getting your bishop on the 6th rank on the D or E squares to help limit the movement of your opponent's pieces and give you a better chance of victory. So in our first game here, we're looking at a game between white and black, between two grandmasters, and white goes into like a queen's gambit style opening, and black goes and fianchettos his bishop, challenging the center. White continues challenging the center, knight comes to c6, and white locks down the center, so the knight retreats to c7, the bishop comes over here to e2, and what white's plan is here is to try to get this bishop here, which is the beastly bishop square. So how does white do that here? So what happens is black chooses f5 here, white decides to take, and after the take here, it's completely messed up white's pawn structure here on the king side. And so what white does is they move the knight over here to g5, knight comes over here to f6, and then you have the check here, hitting the king. Now, you don't want to just take here because then you're going to let the queen in and it's going to get real messy real quick for all your pieces. So what the king does is he moves to f8 here, and then the bishop limits the movement of this king even further by coming over here to f7. So black tries to just kick the defender of that bishop by going h6 here, but what that does is it leads to the fork here on the king and the queen, and you obviously don't want to lose your queen, so you're going to trade off that knight with the bishop, and now that beastly bishop is firmly supplanted here on e6, limiting the range of this rook, where it really can't go anywhere. It's a really weak rook at this point. This king can't castle. It's going to be out in the open, and now this knight is really just anchored down to the defense of this pawn. It can't move anywhere without dropping it. So what does black do is it's trying to move over here to d7, trying to get over here to c5 and take the bishop here. But that allows queen to h5 here, threatening mate. So what can white do is they just come queen to e8 here. The queen just drops down to h3, looking at f5 here. And after the knight comes to challenge the bishop takes. You can't take with a knight. And white is easily winning in this position at a 2.5 point advantage in the engine, and at that level, it's an easy win for white. So in our next game, we're going to be looking at another game where black uses its dark squared bishop to get that beastly bishop and completely limit white's attacking opportunities. So we start off here, e4, e5, and we go into a Ruy Lopez type of situation. And after the light squared bishop trades off this knight here, we get a subpar pawn structure from black. So what are black's plans from here is to get its pieces into the game and start attacking in the middle of the board. So it starts maneuvering its pieces to get its pieces centered, getting this knight out here. And we see this little like sacrifice from both these pieces here. And after the king's take, we have blown up king sides from both sides. Knight to f5, looking for the check. The king just retreats. Queen to d4. The attack is on, but black has an easy stop for it going f6 here. And white gobbles up the free pawn on a7. Now white's got a slight advantage here, 1 point advantage. And so black needs to really work on getting its pieces into the game. And he does that by going bishop to f6 here, queen to d4, rook to e5, rook to a to d1, rook to e8 here, queen to c3, queen to f7, just trying to put as much pressure on this piece as possible. And after the knight comes over here to defend this, that's when black tries to get its other piece in the game, getting the bishop here to h6, and after queen to f3, d5. And now that that's open, you can now get your bishop here on the beastly bishop position, here on e3, and one, you're checking the king, but it's completely limiting the squares that this king can even go to. So the king comes over here to f1. What black is now trying to do is trying to get these pawns up to support this beastly bishop here and make it real hard for white to use his pieces to any advantage. So after d3, this bishop is completely dominating white's king side, and black is probably needing to trade off a rook if he can to even have a shot at unseating this. And so what black does is he goes queen to e6, giving even more support to this bishop here. And after rook to e2 here, f5, rook to d1, and now he's completely seated this bishop, attacking this knight at the same time. So white has to move the knight. He has to move it over here to h1, trying to bring it back in the game. But after d4, this bishop is firmly planted in the center of the board. And with white's king here, it is heavily restricted, and white can't really even use these rooks to get back in the game. So after knight to f2, trying to bring the knight in, queen to a6, going after this pawn here, knight to d3, attacking this rook, and this rook just slides over here to g5, attacking this pawn, trying to get it into the game. What black's plan is now is to attack this king side and expose this king. So after white goes to defend that loose pawn over there on a2, the queen comes over here to h6 looking to attack this, and the king can't come over here to support it, so what he does is he starts running away. And after the take here, The queen takes a check over here on d1. The knight has to come back and be the defense of that king. Black just quietly moves his rook back over to e5. Queen to c6, trying to pick up another free pawn and open up some lines for black's king. And black just calmly attacks it, letting white take the c7 pawn. And after rook to e7, after the queen check here, the king is completely safe over here on g7. a4, white trying to lash out on the queen side here, but what it is a bad move because after f3, attacking the rook and the pawn, you have to take, and it opens up the king side even more, allowing even further opportunities. You're opening up to the king. The rook is under attack, and you can't just take back because what happens is now the queen's under attack, defended by this queen, but you're also threatening mate here, so white is losing heavily in this position and went on to lose the game. So that's the beastly bishop. It's characterized by getting your bishop on the 6th rank with the E and D squares. And if you can get that in the middle game, you're going to easily win your games. So if you like that video, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Our next bishop will be the forbidden fruit, which is taking the B2 and the B7 pawns, which get a lot of players in trouble. That video will be here, and we'll see you next time.